We agreed on a business marriage. Why are you playing at true love with me? The light in the entryway suddenly turned on. Gang Woo pushed Ju against the wall and couldn't wait to press her lips against his. Intense gasps filled the air. With the last shred of his composure, Ju pulled the two apart, his voice hoarse and laced with a warning. Dang Woo, if you dare lay another hand on me, don't blame me for dealing with you right here and now. Dang Woo opened her drunken eyes. Her pupils clouded with a hazy glow. She let out a dazed little laugh, then leaned down and pressed her lips against his ear, her warm breath gently brushing against his neck. I'll be the one to pull it off, nobody knows yet, she said. Then, suddenly she opened her mouth and bit him. His SS, Ju let out a startled gasp and immediately grabbed the back of her neck. Are you a dog or something? How dare you bite my neck? Gang Woo, thoroughly drunk and completely devoid of reason, mustered the audacity of a bear and the courage of a leopard. I'm not just going to bite your neck, I'm going to really bite you, she said. Then lunged toward him again, no longer just kissing, but actually biting. Her lower jaw struck with considerable force, and the metallic taste of blood immediately flooded her mouth. Yu's temples throbbed violently, the pain and surging desire tormenting him mercilessly. His rationality completely shattered as he roughly scooped up the woman whose lips he'd been ravaging. Ging Wu let out a startled cry at first, but then she wrapped her arms around his neck and giggled softly, her warm lips persistently nipping at his neck with unrelenting fervor. This woman really is a doll. Ju clenched his back molars and abruptly tossed her onto the sofa. Her watery eyes stared straight at him. Leaning in closer, Yu's gaze turned menacing. Ding Wu, don't you dare cry later. Ding Wu had always been stubborn. Before she could finish her sentence, Ju simply sealed her lips, swallowing the rest of her words whole. Gang Wu couldn't help but let out a soft moan, her hands climbing up to his shoulders. As passion reached its peak, Ju cupped her chin, his dark eyes seeming to gaze straight into her heart. Gang Wu, look closely, this is Ju. Gang Wu was awakened by the urge to urinate. As soon as she opened her eyes, a face came into view. It had superb bone structure, prominent brow bones, a high and straight nose, bridge, and pale skin that exuded an unmistakable coldness. She blinked, startled. Had she just caught a glimpse of an ominous face? She closed her eyes again, and when she opened them once more, that same face was still there. He'd even turned over onto his side and reached out to wrap his arm around her waist, and beneath the covers, she was completely naked. His scream erupted, and Dang Wu kicked her leg up, sending Yu flying under the bed. With a thud, Yu fully woke up. Dang Wu, are you sick or something? He said. Leaning on the floor with one hand, she peeked out from under the bed. Her eyes still half-minus closed. Her pretty face was etched with displeasure. Dang Wu was completely flustered. She curled the blanket around herself and, her lips trembling, stared at him. How did you end up in my bed? Ju rubbed his forehead. Look closely, this is my bed. Only then did Dang Wu realize she was lying in a completely unfamiliar room. Tears instantly welled up in her eyes, and her voice rang with accusation. Ju, you bastard, you actually bullied me. As soon as Ju heard this, his brows shot up, and he immediately stood up from the ground. He was completely naked, with a lean, weary physique covered all over with red marks that made anyone who looked at him blush and feel embarrassed. Dang Wu dared not meet his gaze and buried her face in the covers. There was a rustling sound of clothes being put on, followed by her quilt being pulled back. Little darling, Yu said, even pointing to his own lips. Take a look, just who's bullying whom here. Then he added, here, let me show you your masterpiece. Dang Wu's pupils contracted slightly when she saw the wound on his lips. Oh my gosh, did you really go this far? Last night's memories started to come flooding back. She'd gone to a bar with her best friend, Shen Yin, for a few drinks, and unexpectedly ran into Yu. Drunk as she was, even dogs seemed handsome to her, how much more so Zhu Yu, who was far more attractive than any dog. She clung to him like a stubborn bandage, refusing to let go. Later, she didn't know how they'd ended up at his place. In her haste, she kissed him. No, actually, she bit him. The wound on his lip was the clearest evidence of that. To be continued. Next up are some scenes that are unsuitable for children, scenes so embarrassing that even the people involved would feel ashamed just thinking about them. But why of all people? Zhu Yu? Her feud with Zhu Yu began when she was 6 years old. That year, she accidentally killed the bird Zhu Yu had been raising. Zhu Yu glared at her and snapped angrily, "Can't you ever stop following me around like a little shadow?" Before she turned 6, she loved to follow behind Zhu Yu, who was quite handsome. Apparently, he'd grown tired of her constant presence and took the opportunity to snap at her. Ding Wu Wu knew perfectly well it was her own fault, but as proud as she was, she simply cowed and stand his tone. From then on, she nursed a grudge and deliberately made things difficult for Zhu Yu everywhere she went. The two of them cowed and stand each other's company, and that animosity has persisted for nearly 20 years now. How's it going, little darling? Do you remember now? Zhu Yu's voice suddenly pulled Deng Wu back to reality, the reality being that she'd slept with her archenemy. His narrow, slanted eyes fixed on her, a mischievous smile lingering at the corner of his lips. Deng Wu's face felt burning hot. "I didn't know. You not don't make things up," she protested repeatedly, shaking her head vigorously. "Oh, is that so?" Zhu Yu raised an eyebrow, then suddenly stepped closer, his breath brushing against hers as he leaned in, entwining himself with her. "How about I help you recall a bit more?" No. Ding Wu Wu hastily raised her hand to stop him. I remember now, it was me. I was the one who made the first move." She bit her lip, her voice as faint as a mosquito's buzz. "I'm sorry, I'll take responsibility." Jiu glanced at her, who looked as if she were ready to face death without a trace of fear, and let out a low chuckle. "Responsible? How exactly would one be responsible?" Ding Wu's mind raced as she recalled the business alliance the two families had been discussing recently. She looked up at him, her gaze firm. "Zhu Yu, let's get married." Zhu Yu paused for a moment, then raised an eyebrow and said, "Miss Deng, are you planning to stick with me?" "It's not about blaming anyone." She blushed furiously. "Aren't our two families planning to form an alliance? Besides, who else would I marry? Marry me is just as good." She puffed out her chest defiantly. "Besides, it was me who, well, you know, I'll take full responsibility for you, no matter what." Zhu Yu glanced at her earnest expression and a hint of amusement flickered in his eyes. He'd known about the arranged marriage for a long time and had already made up his mind to marry her, never expecting that she'd actually come to him on her own accord. Deliberately teasing her, he said, "Oh, so how exactly does Miss Deng plan to take responsibility for me?" Hai Deng Wu stumbled, caught off guard. She'd never once thought about how she'd take responsibility. She'd just instinctively refused to let him hold her over a string. Summoning all her courage, she said, "After we're married, I'll listen to you in everything. I won't argue with you, I won't defy you. If you tell me to go east, you'll absolutely not go west." You let out a light laugh. "All right, then let's do it your way. Get married." Deng Wu hadn't expected him to agree so quickly. She stood there dumbfounded for a moment before finally realizing, "Arminus, really?" Of course, he leaned closer to her, his warm breath brushing against her ear. "But don't regret it after we're married." Ding Wu's heart skipped a beat, and she hastily turned her face away. Whoever regrets it is the little dog. The news of the two getting married soon spread throughout their circle, leaving everyone utterly stunned. No one had ever imagined that their longtime rivals, those who'd been locked in a 20-year feud, would suddenly elope and get married in a flash. Life after marriage was completely different from what Deng Wu had imagined. She had expected Zhu Yu to constantly pick on her, but instead, He treated her exceptionally well. In the morning, HED prepared breakfast for her. In the evening, HED picked her up from work. Even when she was out networking with clients, HED come personally to fetch her, politely declining all offers of alcohol for her. Shess, increasingly unable to understand him, had a family gathering. Her relative teased, Juyu, didn't you used to hate Wu the most? How come you're spoiling him like this now? Juyu looked at Dang Wu beside him, his eyes filled with a gentle smile. I didn't understand back. Then I didn't realize how good she was. Dang Wu listened, her heart feeling sweet and warm. She secretly asked him, did you ever like me before? Shu Yu pinched her cheek. What else? Do you think that's why I've been constantly butting heads with you? It turned out that ever since he was 6 years old, HED been fond of the little shadow, who followed closely behind him. HED only been mean to her because he wanted to get her attention, and HED deliberately gone against her at every turn simply to make her take a second look at him. Night. He held her close and whispered softly. Ding Wu Wu, stop taking responsibility. I love you. Ding Uw's eyes instantly turned red. She turned around and hugged him tightly. Her voice choked with emotion. Juyu, I love you too. It turns out that this marriage, which began as an accident, had actually been concealing his deep and enduring affection for over a decade. What was supposed to be a business alliance ultimately turned out to be his long-planned true love.